Hello and welcome. And in this video, I'm talking about how to handle the 5 most common sales objections. Now, if you're a coach, a consultant, or expert, and you either have to take sales calls in order to sell your programs, whether it's consulting or coaching programs, or perhaps even if you sell in DMs or you sell via one-to-many, one of the key things is to understand how to handle objections when it comes to selling. And a lot of people don't understand the principles of what you're doing with handling objections. And I thought, it'd be perfect because I speak to quite a few people who, when they tell me about their sales calls and how they're going, a lot of people are having them, a lot of coaches are having them, but not everybody's converting as well as they could be. And there are different reasons for that. And a lot of the times it's to do with practice, it's to do with experience, and it's to do with confidence, right? Knowing what to say, knowing how to just be yourself in a sales situation. Because whenever it comes to selling, there's a lot, well, I guess there's two main camps that people fall into. People see selling as the next next best step in what a person can do, either with you or whoever the person is selling, or they see it as this thing that's kind of like sleazy or offensive or shouldn't be done. And in my world, if you sell to somebody, you're selling them something that either you've created or you're going to do with them, right? So you're serving them to a higher level rather than perhaps just the free stuff or the lead magnets or webinars or things that you put out. Selling, I think, is a real act of both power and also your opportunity to help people to live to your purpose and to serve to your mission. And so for me, when I look at sales, and especially how people talk about sales, for me, it's like, it fills me with joy, fills me with excitement, because it creates the next opportunity for me to help somebody to that higher level where I can, either give them access to trainings, me for coaching or mentorship, that type of thing. And I think that's the approach that I take when it comes to selling. And, handling objections can really come down to how you frame your sales calls as well, because it's like anything. If you frame it in the wrong way and you think selling is sleazy, then you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for either you're just going to scrape by and get the sale, or you're going to have a compromise sale, meaning that you're probably going to accept somebody in as a client, and maybe they're not an A grade client, maybe they're a D grade client, and you should have really sold to them, meaning qualified them better to begin with. But one of the big things that comes out of selling, and I guess people's inability to sell confidently, is objections. When a person says, I'm not sure if this is right for me, or I'm not sure if I've got the money for this, or this seems too expensive, or I need more time to think about it, or I need to speak to my partner, my wife, my husband, my dog, my mother, my grandparents, right? There are many types of objections, but I find a lot of these sales objections that usually pop up usually come as a result of you not being able to demonstrate your offer in the best way. Right. So when you get to an objection, it's because it's something that has been missed in the way that you've qualified the person, or you've asked the prospect, meaning that did you really make sure that they understood that, where they are, if they feel comfortable with everything, they're happy with everything that's been explained, and they can see clearly how this can help them achieve the outcome. And that's really where objections come in. It's because we haven't checked in with the prospect. So if you know the difference between a lead, a prospect, and a client, or if you don't even for that matter, I'll just explain briefly. A lead is somebody says, hey, I'm interested in that thing, whether it's like a lead magnet, like a free guide or a webinar, or even saying, I've seen your offer. A prospect is somebody that you've spoken to and you've asked qualifying questions to know whether or not you are a fit for one another, and more importantly, they're a fit for whatever it is that you're selling. And if you're selling, obviously without sales calls or anything like that, you will answer objections in your sales copy, the marketing that you put into your offers or on your pages. And finally, once you've got a prospect and you've got somebody in a position, that's where you present your offer and get them to make a decision about joining. So that's the explanation of the different stages. So what we're interested in when we are handling objections is speaking and communicating with a prospect, and usually a hot prospect, right? Because otherwise, how else would we get on a call? So let's go into this. I've got a couple of things prepared for you in order to handle objections. If you want access to this PDF that I'm sharing with you on the screen, then simply comment PDF underneath this video, and I'll know that you want the objection handling scripts that I'm about to take you through. So let's get into this objections overview. One of the most daunting aspects of selling for those low in confidence or fearful of a person saying no even very confident salespeople, have fears around this. The reality is that an objection is a selling situation, is actually an opportunity for you to answer a question and turn the answer into a sale. That's what it is, right? And that's why I said, for me, like, selling is such an empowering thing. And I guess when I was younger, and I didn't really have a grasp on what selling was when it comes to business. Yes, it might seem to me, I guess, a bit scary, but the more I got into it, and especially when, I think back to my first business, I had a marketing agency, and literally I was in my home city and I went to different high streets and I knocked on doors and I walked into shops and I spoke to people. And that alone kind of helped me to understand what it is that people liked, didn't like, what conversations went well, what turned into a client, a client converting conversation, let's say. And that's the thing. You want to get to the point when a person does say no, it's not the end of the conversation. That's the other thing to bear in mind with sales objection. A real objection is a valid existing reason for not taking up the proposition or the offer. When it's overcome, the sale is made, right? And the objection from a prospect is not the end of the sale. Some people say you shouldn't be pushy. And what I found is that only through experience can you determine whether or not if you're being pushy. I mean, most of us can, but what I mean by that is there are some prospects that you're going to speak to that have either been burnt one too many times with past providers, or they've had a really bad experience and they're low in confidence and they know that they need help, but it's just difficult for them to make that decision because they don't want to make a mistake again. They don't want to waste their money again, or whatever the reason is, right? Or they don't want to disappoint their family again if they invest and then it doesn't work out, or blah, blah, blah. So the key thing for me is that it's not about being pushy. It's about experience and understanding how people operate, how people communicate when you're speaking to those prospects. So let's skip forward into the next part. So I've got some scripts for you, and I want to take you through the process of how to handle objections. So I do speak about this, and this comes from my book, More Leads, More Clients. It is available on Amazon, and I'll just jump to the section that we're talking about today because there are some extra scripts in my book. It says what to do when your prospects say no, and this is on page 136 of More Leads, More Clients. So 136. And I'll just jump there because I do remember, I think there's about 7 scripts in here. So I break it down into a couple more, but the ones I'm going to share with you in a moment, the top 5, these are the ones that you need, and they cover all of these 7. Yeah, so it's all in here. So if you do want the book, remember it is on Amazon. You can go and get it either on Kindle or just you can make notes and stuff in there. But anyway, objections. Let's take a closer look at the 3 steps to handling objections. First, you need to agree to whatever the objection is. You address the objection, giving a plausible explanation or solution, and then you advance the objection. The advance part is moving a person to a decision, basically. So the 3 steps: agree with the prospect. Number 2 is address their issue, and number 3 is advance them through to closing, right? And closing, like, if you got the right prospect, you're going to have a high closing rate. If you've got the wrong prospect because your qualifying isn't so strong, then you're going to have a lower closing rate, even if you're good at handling objections, because maybe it was your qualifying process that has let you down. But the one thing I'd say is that as long as you're testing and measuring, going from a person who's been qualified to buying from you, and you're recording the results and understanding more about the kind of people that you're speaking to, the more familiar and confident and successful you'll get at selling. These are the main types of objections that you will come across. So let's go into them. I think, like I said, in the book, there are 7, but I've broken them down into the top 5 for you, and I'm going to go through each one. You've got the money objection, meaning some form of it costs too much, or I wasn't budgeting for that. You've got the time objection. I need time to think it over. You've got the partner. I need to ask somebody, meaning that actually they need more time, right? That's what they're really objecting about. Credibility won't work for me. The credibility piece is actually about them and their confidence and belief in themselves. And then finally, you've got number 5, information. I need more information, which is very similar to I need more time to think it over. And we're going to tackle all of these. But the reality is that they're all handled in a very similar way. And if you do have any questions, guys, remember, just let me know in a comment below this video. And if you do want a copy of what I'm sharing with you on screen, just comment with the word PDF. And either me or one of my team will reach out to you and make sure you get a copy of the PDF for handling these sales objections. And the one thing I'll share with you is the scripts that I share, do customize them, change them into words or language or phrases that you are more familiar or comfortable with using. These are written in the way that I would sell. I think they're really good, actually, because, you know, I have a big thing around integrity and making sure that the way that I sell is fair and honest, right? Even though I really want to help people. So these scripts, as I said, if you do want a copy, just comment with the word PDF. So the objection, it costs too much. That's the first one I want to look at. Some form of financial objection. They don't have the money set aside, or they haven't budgeted for what they're speaking to you about, right? Well, it doesn't matter if they haven't budgeted. If they're speaking to you, it means that they want a solution to a problem they have that potentially you or your program fixes. Do they understand the difference between price and value? That's the first thing that we're getting to with this objection, like just being aware. And did you present your USP and unique mechanism in a way that clearly sets you apart from competition, i.e. you can't get this elsewhere, or it's just super clear to them with certainty that you can help them get the outcome they're looking for? That's what this objection is all around. So if we move into the actual response that you can give people, and as I said, you can get these, you know, in the PDF if you want it, just comment PDF below this video, whether you're watching live or on a replay. So here's a response for a money objection, or an example of a response that you could use. You could say, hey, I totally agree with you. And I've been in the situation where I've seen the price on my head has totally exploded. The key is not how much my program costs, but how much getting the solution to your problem is worth to you. So you're kind of putting it back onto the prospect and saying, what's this worth to you? Like, how much are you willing to value this problem that you have right now? And again, it helps you to reframe and them to reframe. There's no such thing as a solution to a problem that is too expensive. There's only those people who are willing to do what it takes. And are you ready to do what it takes for yourself? Let's do this, right? So this is one way to take an objection. And as I said, these are like building blocks. You can use these to get going. I use them. I kind of use a more advanced version of these, especially if I'm on a sales call, because I've been using these objection handling scripts for years now. And the whole point is, and I'll say this again, it's about how confident you are to handle objections, because I see a lot of coaches and speak to a lot of coaches and consultants who they close down when they get an objection. They think that's the end of the sales conversation. And the reality is that a lot of sales conversations that you're going to have with prospects, not only are they kind of like checking in on making sure that they're getting what they want and that they're happy about their decision, part of it is also to test whether or not you care, whether or not you're listening, whether or not you're certain, whether or not you're confident. Like, they're also checking you out, right? And it might seem a bit strange, but when a person buys, they want to be 100% certain both in themselves and you. And I say 100%, it's like there or thereabouts. As long as they've got to whatever their target KPI is of certainty or decision making, like that's what they're looking for. But ultimately, in handling an objection, it helps you to also come across with confidence, whether or not the person eventually decides to say yes or no. And that's another thing that you need to frame your sales calls with. Don't pressure the sale at the time just because you want a person to say yes. If the person says no, be okay with no's. And that's one of the other things that I've learned over the years before we get into objection two. Like, the more tension you put into selling, and especially on phone calls or Zoom calls, the less likely it is that you're going to get the sale. You see, that's why I said earlier, it's about confidence. It's about being happy with who you are during the sales call. It's about showing solutions, being certain of what it is, being, 100% confident in your product or your service or your coaching program. And again, like, I'm not talking about your ability to actually say these things. It's all the kind of personal skills, right? Some people call these soft skills, but it's all the personal skills. It's your ability to hold conversation and to confidently take somebody through to an end result where you can help them when they buy from you. So let's look at objection number two. This is the time objection. They need time to think it through. So they are expressing either something they have not revealed usually, and they haven't checked with a partner, checked on their financial position. It could be that they truly don't have the money or finance available. That can be a true objection, especially if you haven't qualified them to begin with. But if you judge if you judge it to be avoidance or an excuse, you can simply express to them the power of action, and staying where they are is not actually doing anything and continuing to lose out on the benefits, which may mean including money and time of what your product or service offers. So remember, like sometimes, as I mentioned, it's about making sure you help them avoid their own excuses, right? If a person has been burnt in the past and had a bad experience, maybe more than once, that's happened. I've spoken to lots of coaches. I've been there as well. I bought things that I didn't particularly think were great. But what I've been able to do, and again, it's mindset, right? I've been able to take away little things, even in things I've invested a lot of money and I thought, oh, that wasn't really the best investment or return. I've made sure that I've focused on the things that were valuable to me. But your prospects are going to be the same, remember? So what we're doing here is to help them along to make a decision. So if you do get the time objection, here's how you can handle the time objection. This is an example script. Remember, again, just saying, use these as a baseline, adjust them and edit them so that they feel good for you and they've got the right words and phrases you want to use. So you could say, look, I agree, you probably need more time. Remember the 3 steps: agree, address, and advance. I agree. That's always the first thing. A lot of people have to go away and really consider their options. But one thing I've learned is that thought is instant, right? Which is true. Just like when I say blue, orange, there's not a blue, orange around, but you see a blue, orange in your head, right? So this is how you'd answer, remember? The question I've got is this: what did you see that made you think or made you want to think about it, right? So the person has remembered, they've said to you, I need more time, I want to think about it, all right? Is there any part of what has been presented, because you're presenting your offer, that you thought, you're a bit unsure of, right? Maybe it's me, maybe it's the service, maybe it's something else. Yeah, I'd love to find out. And you can spend a few minutes with me right now and we can get this over with and get to the bottom of, answering your question. And that way, instead of you going away, spending more time, having to come back on another call with me, you can use the time, that you made up by just me answering your question in the next few minutes. How about we just do that right now? And if you like what you see, let's go ahead. You ready? And that's it. So the time one is very simple. It's about a person's decision, being decisive. And the more that you can help them answer that, the easier it becomes for them to say, you know what? Yes, this is something I'd like to look at further, or no, this isn't the right time, or no, I'm not convinced. And again, if you want to handle the objection, you can go back to, well, what is it that you feel like you need convincing around, or you're not sure of? And that's the whole point of objections. And when we get to the 5th one, I'll explain how you can really go to the next level with your objection handling. So let's look at number 3, guys. So number 3, if I can get this up. Oh yeah, so this is actually a second part to answering time. I'm not just ready, or I'm not ready to make a decision yet. So this is the undecided. Let me just check. So this is the second, another potential objection you'll get around with time. And this one is, and I'll just skip back. It's about decision making. Even though it's time, it's the person not ready to commit to a decision. And if you qualify the prospects, you can get over this one pretty easy, because you will have asked them, is this something you want to act on now or later, right? So you can kind of bring that one back around. I'm not going to go over this one, because remember, you can get all of these in the PDF. If you want a copy of these objection handling scripts, just comment PDF and I'll make sure you get them. Let's look at number 3. 3 is partner. I need to speak to my partner about this, business or intimate partner. Sometimes people need to speak to their wives or husbands, even though they're not in their business. It's like, they're a team and they need to make that connection and speak to them first. Sometimes they've got to go back and speak to a real business partner because they're not on the call, and they really should be on the call if the person said, they need to be, or maybe they're the main decision maker, but they still need to check in. They aren't confident in their own decision making or need some type of approval from a partner. That's what this one is about. So let's look at a potential response. There may be 1 or 2 responses I've got for this one, but here we go. Okay, here it is. 1 of 3 things will happen, right? If I'm unable to help you, you'll get a full refund of your $1,000, pounds, whatever the price is of your program or service. No questions asked. So you can tell them, right? Or number 2, you join. And once we jump on a coaching call with your business partner, if he or she hates me, you get a full refund, right? Or number 3, right? You're excited about working with me. Otherwise, you're not legit in. And again, that's about you having qualified them beforehand to make sure they're in. And I don't really want to work with you if that's the case, right? Because you're making sure that they're fully in and committed. And if you are in, your first deposit payment, if they're on a payment plan or they're paying you in full, goes out, towards the 1st of the month, and we start billing in 30 days time after that. and then it ends in, are you in? Yes. And if they are, Visa or MasterCard, right? So this one's pretty straightforward. There is another response for this. There is a part B, right? So another way to answer the same objection. I like this one because this one's cool. This is one of my favorites. And I learned this from one of my sales coaches about 4 or 5 years ago. And it really holds the prospect to a higher level of accountability and decisiveness. I can't forget my words. Decisiveness about their confidence in where they're going and the goals and vision they have. And this one's probably my favorite. It's really about making sure that they understand what it is that they're doing, which is about them making a decision rather than you trying to prove yourself or your program. So you can see, look, it goes on. There's actually 2 parts to this for the second response. But as I said, if you want these PDF scripts of how to handle your sales objections, just let me know. Comment PDF below this video. And we're about to move on to objection 4. All right. Objection 4 is credibility, right? Or authority. I invested in the past and it didn't work out. Or what are your results? What's your income? So some people might be skeptical, right? Because of things that have happened in the past. And they're questioning their own ability to trust again, right? This is about trust in themselves. That's where it is. It's not in you, it's about them. And if they trust in themselves, then they'll trust in you. So if we skip forward, here's one response. There may be 2 parts to this. Again, I'm just going to read out the first objection handling script that you can use, and you can obviously get the others. So your response might be, if they say, oh, I'm not sure if this will work for me, I've been burnt in the past. This is, you're agreeing, remember, agree, address, and advance. I'm totally with you. That's a way to agree, right? I've done that so many times because I'm like you. I've got the desire to make things happen. Let's face it, there are a lot of people out there that do sell bogus programs, products, or services, and we've invested and we've been hit very, very hard. So if it has happened to you, you can obviously have this place of empathy. And that has happened to me. So that's why I use a script. One thing I see with you is that you have the desire and all you lack is the direction, right? Because remember, it's about trusting themselves. And we wouldn't get or have gotten to this point in the conversation if we didn't know that we could do both, and help each other out 100% along the way. This time, I know it's going to be different. And believe me, if you get half the results that most of the people get with me, you'll be very, very impressed. Does that sound fair enough, right? And that's one response. And remember, there is another one, which is the credibility part, which means it won't work for me again. It's just a variation of them trusting themselves. And look, it starts off with, I totally hear that, which is agreement. I really do. And then it goes into the script. But I'm not going to read out the second one just for time. I just want to keep it shorter and snappy. We're going to go into objection number 5. And objection number 5 is about information. And this objection usually pops up if you've had people say, I need more information, or I need to read more, I need to, whatever the thing is, right? It's just a delay tactic. Again, it's about them coming to terms with making a decision, right? And trusting in their decision, being confident in themselves. And if they're not in that place where they're confident to make a decision, it's simply because you haven't picked up on what is missing from your presentation or conversation, your sales conversation, right? And again, if you don't have sales calls, being able to handle objections is really cool, because you can put handy techniques into your webinars when you present your offer. You can put them onto sales pages wherever your offers are, loaded into some type of funnel software or whatever. And a lot of people miss this, just putting objection handling answers into their copy, because it works just as well as when you're on the phone. Obviously, when you're not doing sales calls, you can probably sell to more people, but the conversion rates may be lower. Whereas on the phone, you can increase conversions really well. However, selling one-to-many creates a lot more leverage. But this is the 5th and final script that I want to share with you. It's the information one. I wasn't prepared to buy today, or I'm interested, but can you send me more information? You ever had that one? I've had it many times. And then I learned how to fix my offers so that I got less of them. So this one is all around, they have not been exposed to enough of your education-based marketing content, but how them and they're interested in your solution. It may simply mean that this process has moved quicker than what they're used to. So let's go to the answer. What might be an answer for you? Remember, handling objections, 3 steps. We agree, we address, and we advance them. So I agree with you on being prepared before you make a buying decision. No one wants to be sold on something before they need it. When we were talking earlier, you said this is exactly what you needed. Is that right? So if you've asked them the question that, can you see this being, the kind of program or service that will help you get the outcome you're looking for, you pull that answer back into the conversation or objection handling script, right, that you're using. I'm not sure how long you've been putting your needs off. Obviously, with the need to fix the problem, but that's never a good thing. Whether you buy today, a year from now, you're going to end up buying. So why wait any longer than absolutely necessary to solve your problem and fill your needs? Let's get this over with and get you on board the program or whatever service you're selling. And that is number 5. So number 5 out of the objection handling scripts. Now, I've got a little bit more I just want to share with you, just so you understand how you can really use these to take your sales to the next level. With these scripts, I've done over 6 figures a month using these objection handling scripts combined with the sales scripts that I use. I've got clients who use them as well. And like I said, you can fix having to answer as many objections if your offers are structured and have the right content in your offers, right? Your sales pages, your marketing content, all of this stuff can help increase trust. It can help increase desire. It can help people to be more decisive if you fix your offers as well. And one of the best ways that I've sold is if people get to see your offer before they commit to buying, right? Because a lot of people, what happens is they send proposals or they send things like this. Whereas once you've got a qualified prospect, present your offer to them, and then if they like they see, then you have the follow-up sales call with them to basically make a decision. But here's the conclusion that I want to give you around objections and handling objections. In essence, it's all about you understanding how to hold a conversation during a sales opportunity. Many business owners fold at the slightest hint of rejection. And look, I understand that I hate rejection or the idea of being rejected, right? But I've got a bit more tougher over the years. And the pressure. Sometimes you are pressured because you need to bring the cash in. And as I said to you at the beginning of this video, when you put tension into the sales, it tends to affect your ability to actually get the sale. When it comes to sales, although most of the time it's in their head, fear, that's what objections are, right? So imagine if you responded without the 3 steps of agreeing, addressing, and advancing method. Yeah. And you responded with, I don't care if it's too expensive, or you don't need any more information, or you don't need more time to think it over, or some other negative approach. You'd really hit the point where people start pissed off with you, and also your reputation. Like, people definitely start talking about you, right? The objection scripts are here for you to practice. That's number 1. Make your own and then change the words or language to match your own vocabulary. Remember, if you want a copy of these objection handling scripts that I've shared with you, just comment with the word PDF underneath this video. And the final thing that I want to share with you, and this is really cool, and I teach this to my paid clients in our programs. If you get to the point where you've answered all the objection, there is a final objection handling script. It's called closing into the nose. And I learned this from one of my sales coaches. And that is, closing into the nose is simply this. Well, when we spoke, first of all, you said that you had a need to have more time, or you didn't have the money. And I answered that. And I answered the question you had around time, around money, around speaking to your partner. And you said you were happy with everything, right? Is that right? And this is how you speak to the prospect. And the person will say, yes, that's right. You've answered all my questions. Great. Well, that doesn't leave us with any more things to go over, because I've literally answered them, and now we're going back over the same things. Does that make sense, right? And the person's going to say yes, because they'll know that they're actually dancing around making a decision, right? So at that point, you can then kind of reverse the tables, let's say, which is, well, if there's no more questions to answer, that only leaves us with, are you in, or are you out? Right? And for me, it's real powerful, because what you'll get to is the person ready to make that decision or just not? And for whatever reason, right? And I don't really care, because it's up to them as to, whether or not they want to go with making a decision. Obviously, we're here and encouraging a person to buy whatever it is that they've asked to be on the sales call with us for. But we don't need to force people into, making a decision if they're not ready to. And again, if you qualify people with a kind of 1-step call, and then when you get your objections, when you get them on the second call, like what we're talking about today, it makes life easier. You should always have qualified prospects where possible, because it just makes it easier to know who you're speaking to. And usually that person is more of a higher committed prospect rather than somebody you've just gone on the call with, perhaps is not sure about buying, maybe just come across you for the first time, but saw an offer or saw something that made them want to speak to you. But all the same, practice your objection scripts. One of the things I used to do is have mine printed next to me whenever I had sales calls. So if somebody did objection, I'd be ready. You know, I'd like, okay, I'll just scan over it even during the call. Even if I'm on Zoom, I could have it next to me on my desk, right? But we're going back, you know, years now. And so now I don't tend to use them as much because I have my own stories and I just simply follow the same structure. I agree, I address the question or objection that they have, and then I simply advance them, move them forward. So guys, thank you very much for watching. That's me, it's Leon Street, and you've just gone over with me how to handle the 5 most common sales objections. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, leave a heart. And for those of you following me on YouTube, please do remember to subscribe to the channel. On that note, guys, I'll catch you on my next video. Should be on Thursday morning. Take care.